Members of the public who wish to provide testimony via a call-in or an internet-based service option must enter the virtual speaking queue within 5 minutes after the conclusion of in-person public testimony or before the virtual speaking queue is exhausted, whichever occurs first. If you have already joined the Zoom webinar online or by phone, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. If you are watching on City TV or the live stream online and would like to call into the meeting to speak, please call 1-669-254-5252. When prompted, input webinar ID 161-532-0355 #. To raise your hand to speak, select the raise your hand button or press *9. Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Staff, for this item, please introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you need. Is Ms. Dennison doing remote? Okay.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Karen Dennison. I'm the Assistant Director with the Parks and Recreation Department. And I just need 5 minutes, please.
Okay. Can you increase your volume?
Sure. Okay, is that a little bit better?
It's a little bit better. Can we get it higher, Ty? How about try it again, please?
Okay. How about now?
Okay, we're kind of there. It's just getting late and we're getting tired. We want to make sure that we're still
Sure, absolutely.
But please proceed.
Okay. My name is Karen Dennison, Assistant Director with the Parks and Recreation Department. With me tonight is Mike Tully, Michael Ruiz, Serena Basra, Elena Pasquale, and Marlon Pangilinan with the Planning Department. We're pleased to present the proposed seasonal closure of Point La Jolla and Boomer Beach. On the next slide, the requested action before you today is that we are seeking council approval to change the municipal code in order to implement a seasonal closure of Point La Jolla and part of Boomer Beach from May 1st to October 31st. This proposed change, if approved, would make it unlawful for anyone, including dogs, to enter the closure area during this time frame. The prohibition of dogs in the area would not only be during the closure period, but would also be in effect all year long. In addition to defining the closure area, the proposed municipal code change establishes an ocean access corridor. This corridor is in part of the Boomer Beach immediately outside of the closure area. The intent of this zone is to ensure access is still provided to those who wish to engage in water-based recreational activities. On the next slide, you can see the closure area. The graphic to the right shows an aerial view, and the area in red is most of Point La Jolla with Boomer Beach outlined in blue. And the graphic to the left shows Point La Jolla's rocky terrain where sea lions and visitors to the area can be found. In recent years, both Point La Jolla and Boomer Beach have become popular areas for California sea lions to haul out of the ocean and rest, as well as for mothers to raise their young during the annual pupping season, which typically starts in early May and ends in October. As a result, Point La Jolla has become a popular tourist destination for the public to view these wild animals at close range. Interactions between sea lions and the public have significantly increased, resulting in reports of harassment of the animals. Members of the public have been observed trying to touch, take selfies, and get as close to sea lions as possible, which is potentially dangerous for both animals and members of the public. The sea lion pupping season is a critical time for mothers and their young to bond, nurse, and learn to swim. The following slide shows activity that has taken place over the past 10 months. To support the proposed amendment before you tonight, the city has applied for and received 2 coastal development permits for the area, an emergency CDP that was in effect last summer, and a permanent one which was just approved with conditions by the California Coastal Commission on April 8th. Over the course of the past 10 months, a multi-city department team has worked on the activities that you see listed in this slide and described in more detail in the staff report. In addition to city staff, the services of Dr. Doyle Hannon, marine biologist, were retained to provide subject matter expertise on the sea lion population and the surrounding La Jolla area. The next slide talks about the tools that would be used for the proposed closure. The proposed seasonal closure would utilize tools such as signs, physical barriers, and use of park ranger staffing. All these tools will play a key role in the success of the closure, especially the daily year-round presence of park rangers, which we anticipate to make a significant positive impact to the area. We are very excited to announce that daily park ranger presence will begin next week on Monday, April 25th. It does bear repeating that park rangers lack enforcement capability as it relates to violations of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Again, authority for this rests at the federal level with NOAA, an agency under the U.S. Department of Commerce. On the following slide, we talk about the new municipal code language. And per standard practice concerning proposed amendments to the municipal code, the proposed ordinance for the seasonal closure is not yet available for release. It's currently in draft form and will be made available when this item is presented at City Council next month. Even though the ordinance language is not available today, it is heavily modeled after the current provision of the children's pool, which can be found under Municipal Code Section 63.0102. If approved, the new provision would follow the children's pool and appear as item F, regulations for the use of Point La Jolla. On the following slide, we've included the two provisions that make up the children's pool for your reference. So as you can see, it prohibits dogs, it describes the closure area, it also identifies the dates that the area is closed and includes a visual diagram, very similar to what we're proposing as part of this municipal code amendment. The next slide shows what we've requested the council to go ahead and consider. We're seeking council approval to amend the code to include this provision, and we are recommending as staff to approve the ordinance modifying the municipal code to implement the seasonal closure, as well as adopt a resolution certifying the addendum to the final negative declaration for the children's pool for the closure of Point La Jolla. So with that concludes our presentation. I want to thank you very much for your time and attention, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dennison, and all the staff that worked on this. Are there any IBA city attorney or mayor comments? And seeing none, we'll proceed with public comment. Brian?
For public comment on this item, if you are in person, please be sure to have your speaker slip submitted and come up to the reserved seats at the front of the room when your name is called, and be prepared to come up to the lectern in the order called. As a reminder, virtual speakers, please raise your hand to speak. You can do so by selecting the raise your hand button or input *9. If by phone, I will announce when it is your turn to speak. Please unmute yourself by either selecting the unmute button or by inputting *6. Chair, we currently have no speakers in chambers who have submitted slips, and we have one in the queue. So we'll go to the speaker in the virtual queue, John Badaroff. John, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is John Badaroff with CleanForKids.org, and just want to say we support closing the beach during the sea lion pup season, excuse me, to protect sea lion mothers and babies while they bond, nurse, and learn to swim. Any human interaction during this time could cause injury or abandonment of the sea lion pups. Please protect the sea lions and approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, I do not see any other speakers in the virtual queue. So with that, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for the caller. I'll take the prerogative of the chair again and start off. Thank you, Ms. Dennison, Mr. Tully, and everybody at Park and Rec that worked so hard to get into this. And I also want to thank and recognize Michael Ruiz, Jane Boardman, Rich Boleski, Sherilyn Kack, Dan Denary, Serena Basra, Elena Pasquale, Marlon Pagleman, Randy Wild from the mayor's office, and I'm sure there's many others who have worked to bring this item forward. The seasonal closure of Point La Jolla and portions of Boomer Beach is being done to ensure the safety and health of visitors to the area and the sea lions. Last summer, we witnessed behaviors of harassment and endangered birthing sea lions, their pups, and risked the lives of people and children interacting with wild animals. And as you can imagine, as a La Jollan, I have visited that area and witnessed this all firsthand. We didn't start with a closure, and with the support of Parks and Rec, we tried to educate the public and encouraged appropriate and safe behavior. Sadly, that did not work. And from the direction of the Coastal Commission, the city closed the beach towards the end of the pupping season, that emergency closure that Ms. Dennison referenced back in 2021. The closure worked. Incident reports were nearly non-existent, and the public were able to view the sea lions and their pups from a safe distance. Working closely with the Coastal Commission, we began to prepare for a seasonal closure. In doing this, I went out to the La Jolla community, and the city opened a survey to the public. The feedback we received was thoughtful, diverse, and ultimately productive. It was clear we needed to achieve a balance that protected the rookery during pupping season and allowed for access to the ocean waters. The city's proposal to the Coastal Commission did just that, temporarily closing off Point La Jolla and creating an ocean access only zone for those to enter and exit the water without disturbing the sea lions. Our coastal application reflected this balance, and though amended by the Commission, much of the proposal has been preserved. Today's action will allow the city to codify the boundaries and the timing of the closure, very similar to what we did, as you heard, for Children's Pool, to allow for what all sides on this issue want, greater enforcement. Speaking of the Children's Pool, I want to thank the city staff that worked on this years ago. As we all recall, resolving the issues on the Children's Pool took nearly a decade. In contrast, for Point La Jolla, city staff has worked diligently with the mayor's office and turned around a coastal development permit in 6 months. I will continue and work with all interested groups on this issue and know that we are taking the right steps now to ensure safety at Point La Jolla during pupping season. Again, I cannot thank staff enough for their diligence, the mayor's office for your cooperation, for the city attorney's role in this as well. With that, I will move staff's recommendation on this item, and I see Committee Member Campbell's hand is up.
Thank you so much. I'd like to echo all your comments and all the thank yous to staff for being so efficient about this. And I just have a question about the other 6 months of the year. Is anyone going to be monitoring to see how the humans behave toward the sea lions during that other 6 months? Because just some really inhumane behavior has occurred, and if we have to close it off for a whole year, I think we should. However, if people behave themselves and don't go near them, even in those other 6 months of the year, that would make it safer for the animals and the people. So I wondered about that, if there's any way we can have the rangers or someone to monitor that.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Campbell. Yes, with the infusion of staff that we've received in the form of additional park rangers for Shoreline, we're going to have a year-round daily presence of at least one park ranger on site at Point La Jolla, regardless of whether it's during the closure period or not. In addition, to reinforce the activities that our charge has been from the Coastal Commission as one of the special conditions of our approved permit is to go ahead and provide reporting and monitoring. So we will be monitoring the animals. We will be monitoring and accounting for any sort of incidents of harassment. We will be closely monitoring animal and human behavior in the area and reporting that and sharing that data with the Coastal Commission.
Thank you. I hope you can share it also with the council. I guess it'll be about a year from now when you might have some data. So if you could bring that back to us in a year, I'd greatly appreciate it. If we only have one ranger, would they have an 8-hour shift? What about the other hours of the day and night?
Sure. So in terms of the staffing, the hours will vary seasonally. So there will be at least one park ranger between the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then during the summer months, it will be from 11 to 7 p.m. Now, for any incidents that involve harassment, injury, or anything compromising public safety, that would be in the event that the police department would be called to assist with any sort of incidents. Of course, if there's any violations of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, regardless of the time of day, the federal enforcement officer from NOAA would be contacted. But primarily, we would be relying on PD to provide support for that area.
So if a citizen sees problems at a time when the ranger's not there, they should call the police department. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Well, let's hope everyone behaves as they should. and leaves those poor animals alone and just enjoys watching them. But thank you so much for doing all this. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Can I take that as a second to the motion?
I meant to start out by seconding it. I absolutely second the motion.
Great, terrific. Vice Chair Von Wolpert.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to your team and your leadership, and thank you to staff as well, and to everyone who's trying to find all the right balance here. I think that these are also very helpful. Thank you for giving these to us so we don't have to squint into the scene. I'm seeing the map of the closure, and then this blue area next to it will be ocean access. So people who actually just want to use the beach to swim and not harass sea lions, they can still access the beach under this plan.
Ms. Dennison, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'd actually like to defer to my colleague, Mike Tully, who can talk more about the conditions surrounding that water access way.
Great.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the surrounding access that you see in blue will be ocean access for citizens who would just like to access the ocean for recreational activities.
Great, wonderful. I think that's a great compromise to make sure that people who actually just want to use the ocean not to harass our wildlife can still do that, and that we protect the seals and sea lions during pupping season on the other side. So I think you guys have worked out a great compromise, and anytime the Coastal Commission blesses anything is a blessing for us here in San Diego. So I'm happy to support your motion.
Okay. So we do have a motion by the chair and a second by Committee Member Campbell. And with that, we'll go to a vote. Vice Chair Von Wolpert.
I vote yes.
Committee Member Campbell.
Oh, yes, also.
Committee Member Campillo.
Yes.
And I will vote yes, and that will pass unanimously 4-0. Again, thank you to Ms. Dennison and everybody at Park and Rec that worked so hard on this, and everybody else that contributed over the past several months. It was certainly a very big lift, and you all did the job, and can't thank you enough. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but we've got one more piece of the puzzle completed. So with that, that brings us to the end of our agenda. 8:10, not too bad.